Casino Royale is directed by Martin Campbell and stars Daniel Craig in his very first outing as James Bond, and before this movie came out in 2006, people had some very interesting things to say. You want to have some fun? Go back and read some old internet articles from 2005 and early 2006. People hated the idea of Daniel Craig as Bond. Do you know why? Because he has blonde hair and blue eyes. Sometimes the internet is really dumb. But when Casino Royale came out and people actually saw it, this film was so good that it made the naysayers ashamed. No one likes to admit that they hated on Daniel Craig in this movie before it came out anymore. Everyone's afraid to be like, yeah, I was one of those people. Because the movie was actually that great. So let's talk about Casino Royale, and as you guys probably figured out by now, this review is going to contain some spoilers. You've been warned. And since this is a James Bond review, I thought I would spiff it up a little bit. The movie opens with a tense and suspenseful black and white scene in which we get to witness Bond take out his first two people, making him a 00 agent. And what a lot of people miss in this opening scene is when Bond does kill this second man, you get a quick flash of his family photo. This film introduced Bond as a cold, dark assassin. He will take you out even if you're a family man. If that's his job, he's going to get the job done. The last time we saw Bond like this was Timothy Dalton in License to Kill. And it was so refreshing to see another actor take on Ian Fleming's character and make him just like Ian Fleming had envisioned him. A man of few words. He gets in, he gets out, he gets the job done, and he leaves. He isn't some smiley, winky, Austin Powers-like guy who just wants to sleep with a lot of women. He's basically Vincent from Collateral.
Yo, homie. That my briefcase?
Now, I've seen every single James Bond movie, every single one, even Never Say Never Again, the unofficial James Bond movie. Before Casino Royale, we had all become accustomed to how these films played out. Every single film opened with the famous gun barrel sequence, where Bond walks in a white room, he turns and he fires, and the blood drips down the screen. This film changed that. It opened, as I said, with a suspenseful black and white scene, and finally, at the end of this scene, when you think his first person he killed is dead, he turns around, he grabs his gun, and James turns and fires, and then we get our first Daniel Craig gun barrel sequence. It was brilliant! It was such a great reversal of the formula we're so used to seeing. This leads us into Chris Cornell's You Know My Name, which I think is a very underrated Bond song, and it's one of my favorites. Its only real competition in my mind is actually Adele's Skyfall. I think this is a great song. Another reason I love Casino Royale so much is because of Le Chiffre, one of the best Bond villains, if not the best Bond villain of all time, played by the incredibly versatile Mads Mikkelsen. I mean, if you've never seen the movie The Hunt, then you have no idea just how versatile this guy is. In that movie, he made me care so much about him. I felt such sympathy for him. But in this film, he just emotes this evil sense. You feel it seeping off of him. He's such a terrific actor. And one of the reasons I think he's such a good Bond villain is because he isn't one per se. He doesn't have some mountain fortress. He doesn't have a satellite in space that's gonna laser the Earth and melt the polar ice caps. Die another day, what were you thinking? He's a guy who owes money to people who are even more dangerous than he is. So he's desperate. He's at the end of his rope. He has nothing left. He's a person, a real human being. And this film understands that to make compelling characters, it has to recognize that all of these people are people with real motivations. Now, early on in this movie, we have what I consider one of the best action scenes ever conceived. The parkour chase. This thing is like 8 minutes long. It never stops, and it's filled with practical, truly, quite literally mind-blowing stunts. You've seen critics quoted on Blu-rays or movie trailers saying something is mind-blowing, but it never actually really blows your mind. The stunts and the practicality of this sequence made my head explode. For real. And David Arnold's score, the African Rundown track, is extremely fun. It's great. I listen to it a lot. It's a great workout song. And two of my favorite parts of this sequence are when the guy he's chasing does this crazy maneuver to get through this window, and Bond just explodes through the wall. And the other moment is when the guy is out of bullets and he throws his gun at Bond and he just catches it in midair and tosses it right back at his head. And last but not least, when he falls like 2 stories, lands on the ground, and just shakes it off and starts running. Fucking great shit! Something else that's impressive about Casino Royale is its 3-act structure. The first act is very action-heavy, a little bit mystery-oriented as Bond gathers a lot of intel. And I'll talk more about how the film branches between those 2 acts later, but as Bond gets involved with this girl, we think we know where this is going. We've seen a ton of Bond movies. They're making out, they're laying down, you think they're gonna have sex, but as soon as Bond figures out what he needs to know, where this guy is that he's pursuing, he leaves. He doesn't have sex with this woman. He just leaves. He leaves her there alone. This is not Roger Moore. This is an assassin who is on the job. He's not going to let some frivolous sex get in the way of that. I love that about this movie. This brings us to an incredible pursuit sequence through an airport, which leads to a very Raiders of the Lost Ark-like truck chase in which Bond is inside the cab of this truck fighting with this guy who's trying to blow up this plane. It's all magnificent stuff. It's extremely riveting. Almost every action scene in this movie could be the finale action scene of any normal action film. It's all handled that well. After that, the second act of this film begins with the setup of a high-stakes poker game at Casino Royale. Le Chiffre is trying to win back money to pay back the people that he owes, who are terrorists. Bond is sent because he's the best player in the service to try to win all of that money so that this terrorism is no longer funded. And on the train there, he meets Vesper Lynd, the best Bond girl of all time, because just like Le Chiffre, this is not the definition of a Bond girl. This is an actual real woman who, through some amazing banter and great dialogue, Bond realizes is probably one of the first times he's ever felt challenged by a woman. And that's one of the reasons why they work so well together as characters and why Vesper is such an interesting character herself. Now look, I love my wife, but Daniel Craig, man, you can wear that suit! Now what I consider to be the best poker game ever put to film begins. Bond versus Le Chiffre, as well as some other people like Felix Leiter, played by Jeffrey Wright. Martin Campbell utilized a lot of cross dissolves throughout this scene to let us know when time had passed, as well as to create more suspense. It's wonderfully old-fashioned. Not too many films use cross dissolves anymore, and this film's usage of it made it feel more like it was taking place in the 60s. Now, we're all used to Bond ordering a drink, and we're expecting him to order it in a certain way, but the way Bond orders the drink in this film, it makes me want to drink, and I don't drink alcohol. It made me want to try that drink. I was like, yeah, it sounds really good. That was actually straight out of Ian Fleming's novel as well. Now, during a break in the poker game, an amazing stairwell fight breaks out between some men who are actually after Le Chiffre for the money that he owes. It's a very great sequence. It's intense, it's exciting, and Vesper ends up helping Bond kill the last guy, and she feels like she has blood on her hands and runs off. What we get next is a scene we've never seen in a Bond movie to my knowledge. Bond in a bathroom cleaning blood off of his body, staring into a mirror, thinking about his life. There's never been a scene like this in a Bond movie in which we see Bond after he's done something that perhaps maybe part of him regrets, but he has to tell that part of him to not feel that way because this is his job. In the other films, we've seen him do so much crazy shit. He's James Bond, but we've never seen him standing there cleaning blood off of himself. Just this small little scene added so much humanity to the character of Bond. Now, as I said, Vesper felt very guilty for assisting Bond in that final kill, and she's now underneath a shower with all of her clothes on. In fact, that was Daniel Craig's idea. The script had her in her underwear, and Craig argued that if she had ran in there, she wouldn't have taken the time to undress herself. Great idea that respects the Vesper character and makes her less of a sex object and more of an actual woman. Now, this scene does not end with them in bed. In fact, the filmmakers make it a point to show that they woke up in separate rooms. Now, in the next poker sequence, Le Chiffre cleans out Bond. I mean, he destroys him. And I adore the shot of everyone exiting the table slowly, with Bond just sitting there, staring at the table. Which brings me to one of my favorite scenes in James Bond history.
Vodka martini. Shaken or stirred? Do I look like I give a damn?
This film so magnificently took all of the James Bond tropes and cliches that we're used to seeing and turned them all upside down. So as I said, Jeffrey Wright portrays Felix Leiter from the CIA, who agrees to stake Bond in the game. He lets him continue with some of his money. So adding to the already huge amount of suspense in this poker game, Le Chiffre poisons Bond, leading to a very intense scene in which Bond has to walk out to his car to get his defibrillator, and after he's resuscitated by Vesper, he walks back and says the film's best line.
I'm sorry. That last hand nearly killed me.
So as you guys probably know, eventually Bond wins with a straight flush. He cleans out Le Chiffre, he's got all of the money for himself, and I've always loved how he tosses the dealer $500,000 like it's nothing. I want to be that dealer. I mean, I just made $500,000 sitting there dealing this poker game. What kind of job is that? That's a good job. So Le Chiffre is pissed. He kidnaps Vesper. Bond goes after her to try to save her, leading to what at the time of its release was the most car flips ever in a scene. And this is one shot, no cuts. There isn't multiple angles of this car flipping over. Campbell knew we just need the one shot. We don't need to show this a billion different ways. Now the next scene in the film is one that for any man is rather difficult to watch. Yeah, Le Chiffre whips Bond in the nutsack. This is without a doubt the closest we've ever gotten to a rated R James Bond, and it is by far the most hardcore PG-13 I've ever seen. Now during this scene, Lashif is interrogating Bond, trying to find out the password so that he can get all the money for himself. And I'm gonna say this, and I don't care. Daniel Craig is Oscar-worthy in this scene. I don't care if he's playing James Bond in a big studio movie. Fuck that. He is truly worthy of that trophy in this scene. Just the sequence in which he's laughing, telling Lashif to itch him in the nutsack with this whip. It's fucking fantastic. It's the best acting I have ever seen in a James Bond movie. What's also so great about this movie is that as the second act ends, Lashif is killed by one of the people he owes money to, not by Bond, and not during the finale of the movie. As I said, this is a perfect 3-act movie, and the third act is a tragic love story. As Bond falls for Vesper, he wants to resign and travel around the world with her. And where in past Bond films, the love story halted the movie because it was just like, hey, here's a girl, have sex, who cares? In this movie, it works because you really do feel like Bond is in love with this girl and she's in love with him. But after it's revealed that she is double-crossing him to try to get that money, we get a thrilling action sequence as this house is literally sinking into the ocean, where Bond has to try to save Vesper, who eventually gives in and allows herself to drown right in front of him. And it's her betrayal that is so integral to the Bond character. When he's on the phone with M and he says, "Forget about it, the bitch is dead," which is, by the way, straight out of Ian Fleming's novel, that scene is Bond becoming James Bond as we know him. Now in the final scene, James Bond tracks down the last guy involved with this whole ordeal, looks him in the eye and says, "The name's Bond. James Bond." And then for the first time in the entire movie, we get to hear James Bond's theme. He has now become Batman. No, but seriously, he's now become James Bond. It's so brilliant. Casino Royale is one of the best action movies ever made. It is not just a great Bond movie. It is a great film. And Casino Royale absolutely deserves an A+. Now, I love this movie so much, I actually went out and bought a licensed deck of cards from this movie. It came with a collector's edition set of Casino Royale, as well as a poker chip. And last but not least, if you really like Daniel Craig as Bond, why don't you check out the movie Layer Cake? A lot of people consider this to be the movie that actually won him the role. It was directed by Matthew Vaughn, and it's pretty good. Also, I want to give a big thank you to JackThreads.com. They provided this suit that I'm wearing. I was more than happy to wear it, and if you guys would like to check out their website, if you go to JackThreads.com/Chris and use the coupon code Chris when you check out, you can get 20% off your order. They have tons of stylish clothes. I like that site. It has a lot of great stuff. If you're a man, you know, you like to wear watches and ties and cool pants and shoes and stuff like that. Every once in a while, it's nice to dress up. I don't always wear graphic t-shirts. So guys, go to jackthreads.com/Chris and use the coupon code Chris when you check out for 20% off. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching my James Bond series. I'm looking forward to reviewing Spectre very soon. As always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.